The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the savannah. The golden hues of the sky painted a serene picture, but beneath this calm exterior a storm was brewing. A lion roared in the distance, its powerful call echoing through the vast plains, a reminder of the untamed wilderness. But this was no ordinary sunset. This sunset, witnessed by 1,000 generations of animals before, was different. It marked the beginning of a new era, an era that would change the course of history. This time, men with guns and strange clothes watched the sunset too. They were not mere travelers, they were harbingers of a new order. They were not there to live with the land, they were there to conquer it. Their mission was clear: to claim, to dominate, and to reshape the world in their image. This was the Age of Imperialism. Between 1850 and 1914, the world changed dramatically. European powers, driven by ambition and greed, raced to claim their stake in distant lands. They sought wealth, resources, and new territories to expand their empires. European powers, driven by ambition and greed, raced to claim their stake in distant lands. They carved up continents, drawing borders that ignored the existing cultures and societies. Africa, Asia, the Americas, no corner of the globe was safe from their reach. The impact of their actions would be felt for generations. This wasn't exploration, this was conquest. It was a systematic takeover, often brutal and relentless. This era wasn't just about maps and flags, it was about power. It was about control. It was about transforming entire societies. Indigenous ways of life were upended, replaced by foreign customs and governance. It was about imposing one way of life onto countless others. The cultural, social, and economic fabrics of native populations were forever altered. The consequences of this period would echo through history, shaping the world we live in today. The legacies of imperialism are still evident in modern geopolitics and societal structures. To understand the present, we must first understand the past. The Age of Imperialism is a crucial chapter in that story. We must understand the Age of Imperialism. Only then can we fully grasp the complexities of our current world. The Industrial Revolution was like a fire. It needed fuel to burn. That fuel was raw materials. Europe's factories demanded cotton, rubber, tea, and more. And where did they find these treasures? In the lands they sought to conquer. The economics was simple. Cheaper resources meant larger profits. Imperial powers saw colonies as little more than sources of raw materials and captive markets for their goods. This wasn't trade, this was exploitation, but it wasn't just about raw materials. European nations were producing more goods than ever before. They needed new customers. Colonies, with their vast populations, provided the perfect solution. Products flooded into these new markets, often destroying local industries in the process. The economic engine of imperialism was fueled by greed and a relentless pursuit of profit. It was a system designed to benefit the few at the expense of the many. The quest for colonies wasn't just about economics, it was about something more profound, more emotional national pride. Owning colonies became a badge of honor, a symbol of power on the world stage. The more territories a nation controlled, the more powerful it seemed. This competition for colonies, known as the Scramble for Africa, plunged the continent into chaos. European powers carved up Africa like a pie, drawing borders with little regard for the people who already lived there. The pursuit of national prestige had devastating consequences. It fueled rivalries between European powers, leading to tensions that eventually erupted in the First World War. And for the people living in the colonized lands, it meant the loss of their sovereignty, their freedom, and their way of life. Section 4. The White Man's Burden: Cultural Justifications for Conquest. Many Europeans believed they were doing the people they conquered a favor. They saw themselves as benevolent rulers, bringing civilization and progress to the uncivilized world. This paternalistic attitude, often tinged with racism, was used to justify even the most brutal acts of oppression. This belief in European superiority, often referred to as the white man's burden, was deeply ingrained in the culture of the time. It was reflected in literature, art, and even children's books. The idea of a civilizing mission was a dangerous delusion. It ignored the rich cultures and traditions of the colonized people, dismissing them as primitive and backward. This arrogance blinded many to the suffering they were inflicting in the name of progress. Section 5. controlling the chaos, military might and political puppetry. Conquering a nation is one thing, but holding on to it is another. Imperial powers relied on a combination of brute force and cunning manipulation to maintain control over their vast empires. Military might was the iron fist, always ready to crush any sign of resistance. European armies, equipped with superior weaponry and tactics, were a constant presence in the colonies. Fortresses were built, and troops were stationed in strategic locations, always ready to quell unrest. These fortresses served as symbols of power and intimidation. But military force alone was not enough to maintain control over such vast territories. Imperial powers also relied on political puppetry, installing puppet rulers and propping up corrupt regimes that would serve their interests. Local elites were co-opted, bribed with titles and privileges to ensure their loyalty. These local leaders were often given a semblance of power, but in reality they were mere puppets of the colonial rulers. This created a system of indirect rule where the colonized people were governed by their own people, but only in name. The real power always lay with the colonial masters. This combination of military might and political puppetry allowed imperial powers to maintain control over their colonies for decades, often with devastating consequences for the local populations. The legacy of this era is still felt today, as many former colonies continue to grapple with the political and social ramifications of their colonial past. Understanding this history is crucial to understanding the present, as the echoes of military might and political puppetry continue to shape our world. Section 6. Plunder and Profit, Economic Exploitation of Colonies. The Age of Imperialism was, at its core, about one thing: profit. Colonies were treated as giant farms and mines, their resources plundered to feed the insatiable appetite of European industries. Farmers were forced to grow cash crops like cotton and rubber, often at the expense of food crops, leading to widespread famine. Mineral resources like gold and diamonds were extracted and shipped back to Europe, enriching the colonizers while leaving the colonized in poverty. This economic exploitation had a devastating impact on the colonies. It destroyed traditional economies, created dependence on European markets, and left a legacy of poverty and underdevelopment that continues to this day. Section 7. Scars on the Soul, the Enduring Legacy of Imperialism. The age of imperialism may be over, but its legacy lives on, deeply embedded in the fabric of modern society. The scars of colonialism run deep, shaping the political, economic, and cultural landscapes of former colonies around the world. These influences are visible in the very infrastructure and governance systems that persist today. The arbitrary borders drawn during the scramble for Africa continue to fuel ethnic conflicts and instability. These borders, often cutting through ethnic and cultural lines, have led to prolonged strife and division. The economic systems put in place by colonial powers have left many former colonies trapped in a cycle of poverty and dependence. The exploitation of resources and labor has had long-lasting effects on their development, and the cultural suppression of indigenous traditions has led to a loss of identity and a sense of alienation. Many communities struggle to reclaim their heritage and preserve their unique cultural practices. But the legacy of imperialism is not entirely negative. It also brought about significant changes that have shaped the modern world. It also led to the spread of new ideas, technologies, and institutions. These advancements have contributed to the modernization and development of many regions. It fostered cultural exchange, albeit often on unequal terms. This exchange has enriched the global cultural tapestry, creating a blend of traditions and innovations, and it sparked resistance movements that ultimately led to the downfall of colonial empires and the rise of independent nations. These movements were a testament to the resilience and determination of oppressed peoples. The age of imperialism is a stark reminder of the dangers of greed, arrogance, and the pursuit of power at any cost. It serves as a cautionary tale for future generations. It is a period that we must learn from if we are to build a more just and equitable world. Understanding this legacy is crucial for fostering global cooperation and ensuring a better future for all.